Welcome to a complete freak show, shit show, whatever you like, but hold on to your hats because it's a great fun game. So it's a 5-minute blitz. My opponent's rated about 1530 and I'm rated around 1450 at the time, and we have a Vienna game. So far so good. We go for the Vienna Gambit. Opponent now plays a very odd move with a bishop out here. So I play the correct move, capturing the pawn and hitting the knight. The knight now retreats and I play... Here I should have played d4 straight away. Pawn defended by the queen, really grabbing the centre, but I developed my knight instead because of my constant fear of queen h4 check. Opponent just pushes a pawn and still allows the bishop to be hit, so the bishop has to move. I now bring out my bishop and hit the queen. So there's not many options here. Pawn takes isn't very appealing because it allows me to eliminate my doubled e-pawn. So black plays the knight now to e7. White is already actually in a winning position. I play my bishop out, then targeting f7. I'm preparing to castle here, get the rook on f1, move the knight, and target this weak square here. Opponent castles, I castle. And now they capture, and this looks like another blunder. They capture the pawn here. I take with the knight. Completely winning position for white here. They bring out their knight. And now I've missed something. I have 3 pieces looking at f7. And for some reason, all I can see is I'm focusing on this. What can I do? Do I want the knight to take me? No, because I don't want to end up with doubled isolated pawns on the e-file. Completely missed the fact. You've got to keep your eyes open to everything on the board. I've got 3 minutes 43 left. I retreat my knight and hit the bishop. Not the best move. They take, I take back. White is still better. Queen moves across to e8, breaking the pin on the knight here. And now... Wow, this is a very interesting place to pause. If you have the black pieces, what do you do? Okay, pause if you need. There is a great move here from black because this was a blunder. Knight to e5. It's a fork on the queen and the bishop, but also it's a double attack because there's a discovery against the queen as well. Now, from white's perspective, pause. How can you possibly save material here? Well, there's only one move really. There's a couple of ideas. One, you can back up here. If the knight takes, I guess you can capture on c7. That's something. But a slightly better move, queen to h4. If the knight then takes the bishop, we have a barrage of queen and bishop, and we win this knight. Right, but then if you move here, they can move their knight to here and hit the queen, right? And then you can capture this knight. Is that the way it works? It's really crazy. So it would be queen to here, knight from 7 to g6. Then you take their knight, okay? Again, putting 3 pieces on the f7, right? Crazy, crazy stuff. If they take your queen, right, you take with a rook here, and then threaten to come here and win. Oh, it's all really, really mad, really, really mad. But I've used it in one of my studies anyway. So I don't do that. I just pull back and lose the bishop. Knight takes c4. I've lost the bishop outright. I come here now, threatening mate. Okay. But this again is not fantastic because my opponent can simply block, and now I've got a bishop on prise. So I really should do something about that. The engine here says actually queen takes c7 with the ability to swing around and capture the knight is actually best. I don't do that. I come in for the knight. Now black is winning 4.5 to black because I've actually got 2 pieces hanging. So if he takes me, I recapture, I lose the bishop. So what happens? They take the bishop first. Right. Now I come around with my knight. I'm only making things worse for myself. Yes, I'm chancing my arm on a royal fork there. Opponent doesn't fall for it and they move the king out of the way. Again, I should take on c7. I come this way to hit the knight. Black defends the knight. I push forward. So what's the idea? Well, the idea is queen to d4 with check. And pawn blocks doesn't work. Queen could block, I guess, actually, or even the knight could block, so maybe that's not the best idea after all. They develop their bishop and hit my knight. My knight now comes and hits the queen. Queen moves out of the way. I stick my queen on d4, and now the idea is to take with a discovered check, thereby winning back material. I'm actually 5 points of material down. I'm two whole pieces for a pawn down. They bring their knight out to here, breaking my, well, there is no discovered check anymore, and they defend the bishop. So what to do? I kick the bishop. I'm in a losing position. They hit my rook. Just lift. Still losing. This is absolute awful. I mean, we both get about 1,000 or 1,100 for this game. Okay, bishop retreats now to a square where it's defended by the pawn. And I decide to push up, try and dislodge this knight. If it takes, I can take this knight, right? If he doesn't do anything, I'm going to push ahead. What does he do? He pushes h5 and halts the progress of the pawn. So I grab his pawn on h5. Now the queen comes in. This is absolute comedy. Right, so what would you play here? I play my knight in, hitting the queen. It's now -8 in black's favour. Queen grabs the pawn. I come here. This knight, remember, is now pinned since the queen moved. Well, since the knight moved. So the knight is now once again pinned and cannot capture. So I'm hitting the rook. Rook comes across. I come back and hit the rook again. Rook comes across again. Now what I would like to do is to come here and put a second attacker on this knight, but I can't because the rook is guarding that square. So doubling up the rooks now on the f-file. What have I got? I'm -13. Right, black is just all over me like a rash. I blunder my rook. Rook recaptures. Queen now up to g5. This is actually the best move. I find rook to f5, hitting the queen. Desperate times now. Queen comes down to c1 with check, king h2. Queen comes back up to h6 with check, king back to g1. Queen to c1, king comes back there now. If they do this again, we've reached the same position for the third time, and we draw. I will take that. Opponent doesn't want that. So what does opponent do? Blunders. And now it is 0-0. All the zeros. Okay. I take the knight with a discovered check. And suddenly, again, it's game on. King moves across. I play my knight to h6 with check, and this is a blunder because they have queen takes h6. So anyone who's sitting there thinking that 1500s don't make horrific blunders playing even at blitz, think again, right? Opponent misses it. They're in check, they move the king. And now, are you ready for a king kahuna blunder? A cluster blunder, if you like. Queen to h8, check. And what does my opponent do with 1 minute 44 left on the clock? You'd think that is enough time to have a little scan of the board, but opponent thinks, oh no, my king, and misses the fact that I just hung my queen. So that's 2 pieces and 2 moves I've just literally hung. He moves the king instead, and now, boys and girls, it's mate in 3. Can you figure out how we do it? Okay, so what I do, I take with a rook. That's the first move. The king is forced now to d6, and there are actually 2 finishes from here, which is really interesting, and it all centers around this little guy, this little isolated c-pawn, formerly known as Barry, now known as Charlie, okay, because he's covering this square and this square. So there's 2 ways to win. I'll show you what happened in the game. I come in with the queen. King is forced to here now. And then we can actually finish in two ways. Queen to here or rook to here. Covers these squares. And the queen covers these squares anyway, wherever she is. And this pawn is covering these. So I play rook takes and I win the game. The other finish is knight to f5 check. And again, the rook's covering these squares. This pawn is covering these two. The king's in check. There's only one legal. And by the way, the queen's covering this one. So the king again would have to move to here. And again, in fact, rook here then doesn't work because remember, our queen previously was on the 6th rank covering all these squares off. So rook here doesn't work. But there is a checkmate. Queen to d4. Wow. Knight covers there. Queen covers these. Checkmate as well. But what an absolute shower of shite that game was. But I tell you what, I enjoyed it. And you get a real kick when you get into such a losing position. And sometimes you just have to have a crack. And sometimes it pays off. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that one. I enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. See you soon.